Leopold von Ranke wrote, Universal History, page 5. In spite of all the efforts of research, we have, as one of the most distinguished Egyptologists has expressly admitted, not advanced far beyond Herodotus in positive knowledge of ancient Egyptian history. Now as then, the first founder of the monarchy appears to have been that Menes who, descending from Thynis, founded Memphis, the goodly dwelling. The great dike which he built to protect the town against the inundations of the Nile afforded at the same time a secure stronghold for the dominion over the delta. According to a legend preserved elsewhere, Menes succumbed in a struggle with a crocodile while engaged in his task of subduing the hostile powers of nature. Of all the names out of which the three dynasties in immediate succession to Menes have been compiled, nothing memorable is recorded. In the fourth dynasty at length appear the builders of the Great Pyramids, the noble sepulchral monuments of epochs inconceivably remote. The issue I have with this is that Menes is philologically similar to Manu or Menu, which is the sun, struggling with the typhonic or Setian attributes of darkness, symbolized by the crocodile and allegorized at one point by Sobuk, which, given the correlation between the inundation and fertility as a result of the Nile, would signify the hostile powers of nature that need to be subdued. The river gods, like Sobuk, also correspond to the sun. None of this proves my intuition is correct. But the lack of history available, along the accounts pretending to exist while corresponding to astrotheology, raise my suspicions, which is how I arrived at my conclusions. The point the reader should internalize is that, given these circumstances, trying to figure out history by interpreting these stories is akin to interpreting art. It's abstract and subjective in the absence of better artifacts and detailed inscriptions. And the point I must belabor is that the ability of Egyptologists to translate Egyptian hieroglyphics rests on the trilingual inscriptions of the Rosetta Stone, in languages that are solely Greek-based. This detail is of concern because it indicates the hieroglyphics are not as ancient as pretended. Ranke wrote, IB pages 10-11. For some time Egypt stood firm in all its unity and homogeneity. It was rich and fertile, the granary for all neighboring tribes which then as now infested its borders. These invaders gradually overpowered the defense. The aliens took possession of the delta and pushed on further still. They were tribes of Bedouin Arabs. In the sepulchral chambers are found also Phoenician names. It is an assertion of ancient date that Canaanitish tribes, especially Philistines, took part in the conquest. By later generations they were called Hyksos, by which name it is thought Arabian leaders are met. These are the shepherd kings to whom legend assigns the possession during several centuries of Lower Egypt. But here again we are referred to doubtful authorities. On the monuments the name of Hyksos has as yet not once been found. The subsequent accounts from Ranke rely on too many biblical accounts to be taken literally, so it is not my place to make sense of them because there is nothing in the Bible that is historical. On the contrary, there is great forgery in the great book. Ranke describes the monuments, I think of Thebes, IB pages 13-14. The Egyptians utter a shout of joy and give honor to Ammon, the lord of Thebes, who has given victory to his son. All the neighboring princes come with their children, in order to make supplication before the king and to entreat breath for their nostrils, that is, life, which had as it were been forfeited through their turbulent rebellion. The monuments contain a list of the countries which, as it is said, had hitherto been uninvaded, and from which captives were now carried away. Amongst these Megiddo, Damascus, Beirut, Tanakh, Joppa, Mamre, are recognizable. The character of the war is learnt from the inscription over a captain, who says of himself, "When His Holiness was come as far as to the land Naharain, I carried away 3 grown persons after a hand-to-hand conflict. I brought them before His Holiness as prisoners taken alive." In the Nubian temple of Amata constructed by Thutmosis III in memory of all his predecessors and all the gods, he boasts of his victories, and of the execution done on his antagonists. He has with his own hand and with his battle club struck down 7 princes who ruled over the land of Thachis. They lie gagged in the bows of the royal ship, the name of which appears as ship of Amenemhotep II, son of Thutmosis, the sustainer of the land. 5 of these enemies were hung on the outside of the wall of Thebes. Throughout the monuments we may note the largest liberally bestowed by the king upon his warriors. Have you ever seen any man carry away 3 grown persons? It does not say we carried away 3 grown persons, but I carried away 3 grown persons. 3 tends to correspond to the solstices in astrology, the 3 days that the sun's declination is still, as well as the 3 major declinations: summer solstice, winter solstice, and the equinoctial declination that separates the two. But if that be anecdotal, this archetype, like Janus, Esus, Hercules, and the like, has a battle club, which he used to strike down 7 princes who ruled over the land of Thachis. This corresponds to the 7 summer months or zodiacal signs, which compose the royal arch, Aries through Libra. They lie gagged in the bows of a royal ship. What's another name for ship? A bark, or ark. The sun gods and other luminaries are depicted on ships, or solar barks, as an allegory for how they sail through the sky. The ship belongs to Amenemhotep II, which, if you recall, Amen or Ammonius is a title ascribed to the sun, meaning the hidden one because he hides in winter, making nights longer, hence Jupiter Ammon, Zeus Ammon, Jesus the Amen, etc. If that weren't enough, 5 of those enemies were hung outside of Thebes, which likely comes from the word the Ba, meaning Arkansas. Those 5 enemies just happen to correspond to the 5 months of suffering, the 5 wounds in the lamb, the stigmata, which signify the 5 winter months, or zodiacal signs, Scorpio through Pisces. Is this all coincidence and the ramblings of a schizophrenic writer? Or is there a pattern emerging over and over again, a possible system of forgery? It's even in the inscriptions that are allegedly being interpreted as history. Ranke wrote Sethos and a conquered people known as the Cheta in Western Asia, IB page 15. The Cheta, a beardless, bright-complexioned people, make a stout resistance with their war chariots, but are nevertheless conquered. Thereupon the princes and elders of the adjoining district make submission, and acknowledge the divine mission, so to speak, of Sethos. Thou appearest, they say, like thy father, the sun god. Men live through the sight of thee. It's observably astrotheology. I don't know how educated men could look at this in any other way without deceiving themselves. He continued, regarding King Seti, IB pages 15, 16. The inscriptions at the Temple of Ammon in Thebes boast that he has set his frontiers at the beginning of the world, and at the furthest borders of the riverland Naharain, which is encompassed by the Great Sea. On his return with spoil unprecedented, Seti is received with festive pomp and with the cry, "May thy days endure as those of the sun in heaven. The sun god himself has established thy borders." Then follows a list of the conquered countries: Cheta, Naharain, Upper Rutan, Canaan, Lower Rutan, North Syria, Singar, the Shinar of the sacred writings, together with Kadesh, Megiddo, and the Shesu Arabians. The spoil is presented to the god Ammon. The captives of the lands which knew not Egypt appear as servants and handmaids of the god Ammon. Which servants and handmaids of the sun, Ammon, don't know or go into Egypt, that is, below the horizon. It'd be the circumpolar stars composing the Big Dipper, which never sets. Ranke admitted that the interpretation for Seti's death is expressed by the Egyptians as his reuniting with the sun. If Anubis corresponds to Sirius, the dog star, then Seti with Anubis could be symbolism of the sun when Sirius rose heliacally at the summer solstice, while Seti with Osiris corresponded to the sun at the winter solstice. This is anecdotal. I'm merely showing the reader how priestcraft works. If you're still not quite sure where I'm coming from or what I'm getting at with this article, invest in Spirit World, make your way through the entire series, and then the Real Universal Empire to bring yourself up to speed. My paid subscribers are assumed to have gone through my work, which this Substack partially caters to. Become a member to access the rest of this article. For those who don't like reading, all articles are available in audio form through the Substack app. There are